This is Radio Health Journal. For Reed Pence, I'm Shel Lustig. This week, science reveals how meditation changes your mind, brain, and body.
What are the enduring changes that are produced by meditation? The changes that impact the nooks and crannies of everyday life, so to speak.
Staying zen through the holidays when Radio Health Journal returns.
I'm Nancy Benson, host of Radio Health Journal. If you enjoy Radio Health Journal, you'll also like Viewpoints, our sister show covering current affairs.
This week on Viewpoints.
These women are classic lifers. They're kind of icons of American culture. They've been working in diners and coffee shops most of their lives.
Diner waitresses. We'll hear about how they create community at the counter.
Then, the diversity bonus, how great teams pay off in the knowledge economy.
All that and more this week on Viewpoints.
Listen to Viewpoints on your favorite radio station, iTunes, and Stitcher.
Have you ever noticed how many thoughts run through your head while you're washing your hair, shaving, or putting away dishes? If you take a moment to notice, you'll be amazed at the constant chatter in your mind, all centered around the most important person in the world, you. However, research shows that the ability to silence this ongoing noise through the practice of meditation has certain benefits.
What we're really talking about here is that even beginning very, very modestly with short amounts of practice can really make a difference. And if we can show a little bit more kindness, a little bit more appreciation, a little bit more gratitude, a little bit more mindfulness and awareness as we go about our daily lives, I think that the culture could really change.
That's Richard Davidson, professor of psychology and psychiatry and founder and director of the Center for Healthy Minds at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He's also co-author of the book Altered Traits. Science reveals how meditation changes your mind, brain, and body.
I think most people would agree, particularly in the United States today, but also in many other parts of the world, civility is not as highly valued and practiced as it once was. I think also most people would agree that the world can use a little bit more of these qualities.
Davidson's felt this way a long time. When he was starting out as a young psychopathology student at Harvard back in the 1970s, he told his professors that he wanted to study the effects of meditation on the brain.
They thought that I was throwing away my career. They thought I was wasting my time and that this was not a legitimate area of inquiry.
But all that has since changed. Davidson says there has been an explosion of scientific papers on meditation over the last 50 years, and that the field now has a name: contemplative neuroscience.
What are the enduring changes that are produced by meditation? The changes that impact the nooks and crannies of everyday life, so to speak. After all, if we just simply got a high or some unusual experience when we're meditating, then meditation would be like a drug and the effects would wear off, and that wouldn't be particularly important or interesting. What we're really interested in are the effects that endure, that transform everyday life. And so we were especially interested in the book in sifting through the evidence and determining, first of all, what qualities are impacted in this enduring way, and then how are they impacted? What does it take to produce altered traits, that is, changes that endure? A trait is a quality that persists across different contexts.
In other words, anyone might feel calm and patient while they're meditating. But how about when your flight to visit relatives over the holidays gets delayed or overbooked?
To paraphrase the bumper sticker, stuff happens. We cannot buffer ourselves from adversity in life. It's really part of life. And so the question is, how do we respond to adversity? This is something that we can measure in the brain, in the body, and it's extremely important for our well-being and also for our resilience, which is really a constituent of well-being. And we find that meditation can actually improve a person's ability to recover more quickly.
However, Davidson warns that while meditation is extremely valuable for many reasons, there's also a lot of hype about just what practicing mindfulness can do.
Some of the claims are that meditation is going to be effective in curing all kinds of medical illnesses, and the scientific evidence clearly does not suggest that at all. There also, I think, is a lot of hype about the fact that you may not need very much practice to produce effects, and various organizations and programs are making claims about seeing benefit after just a few hours of practice. And while there's certainly scientific evidence to show that you can indeed see changes after very short amounts of practice, there's no evidence to indicate that those changes will endure. And so it's a big difference between showing that a change can occur in a very fleeting way and showing that a change can occur in a way that actually sticks.
Clinical depression is one area that has been heavily investigated in regards to meditation.
There are strategies that have been developed to combine meditation with other empirically validated approaches to treat depression, particularly cognitive therapy. And there is a hybrid therapy called mindfulness-based cognitive therapy that's been developed, and quite a lot of scientific research has focused on that. And here's what we know. One is that mindfulness-based or meditation-based approaches don't seem to be better than any other approach. So they don't show superiority to other approaches that have been empirically validated. However, having said that, there's also evidence to suggest that these approaches are as good as other empirically validated approaches. So they're not any better, but they're also not any worse.
One other area that's helped by meditation? Multitasking. Research shows that people with 10,000 or more hours of meditation may be better at it, although we've reported, and Davidson agrees, that technically speaking, there's really no such thing as multitasking.
We're not literally doing two or more things simultaneously, but rather the mind is oscillating rapidly between or among several tasks. It may be switching between them so quickly that we don't really notice it. But in most cases, multitasking is toxic. In most cases, it exacts a cost on our well-being and also a cost on task performance. But having said all that, here's what we do see with people who think they're doing multitasking. When they switch tasks and then go back to a task that they were originally working on, in most cases, there is a decrement in performance when they go back to that first task after they've switched. And it takes them some time to get back up to the performance they were demonstrating previously.
Davidson says advanced meditators can get back to the original task at the same performance level almost immediately.
Which indicates that meditation may facilitate the switching among tasks more seamlessly in ways that do not lead to as much performance decrements as they might otherwise.
However, while lots and lots of meditation may have big benefits, Davidson says even small amounts are good for you.
Even short amounts of practice can make a difference, and we can begin very modestly. And so I think the most important thing is for a person to stick with it once they begin, even if it's just for a few minutes a day. I often say to people, you know what the very best kind of meditation is? The very best kind of meditation is the kind of meditation that you actually practice, whatever that is.
One method of mindfulness meditation is to focus on the breath. Anytime you notice your mind wandering, bring your attention back to your breathing. Davidson admits it's not an easy task.
The essence of meditation is awareness. And so the breath is kind of subtle, and you can choose to place your awareness on other things that may be a little bit easier at first. For example, sound. Sound is a great one. You know, most environments, particularly in the modern world today, there's sound around. And being still for a few minutes and simply noticing, becoming aware of whatever the sounds are around you, can be very, very helpful. And that's something that may be a little bit less effortful and a little easier than the breath at first.
But how does focusing on the breath make you more patient or kinder and more compassionate? Well, it doesn't.
Focusing on the breath is not so great for cultivating kindness. Now, I'll be quick to add that there are some people who would disagree with me about this and who would say simple forms of mindfulness will ultimately help a person become more compassionate and kinder because it will lead to more equanimity in themselves, to being calmer. When we're calmer, our basic goodness is more likely to emerge, and through that gradual process, we will express greater levels of kindness and compassion. And that might be true in principle and kind of theoretically, but it's not a very direct route. There are specific practices that are designed to cultivate kindness and compassion.
For example, Davidson suggests a meditation exercise where you visualize a loved one or someone close to you.
Imagine a time in their life when they may have been having a difficult time, when they may have been suffering, and then going through a process where in your mind you cultivate the strong aspiration that they be relieved from that suffering. And so doing a meditation practice of that kind can much more directly and quickly cultivate feelings of kindness.
Davidson says the next step is to extend this wish for kindness and happiness to complete strangers.
This is a kind of practice I do when I walk through airports. There are places where there are lots and lots of people, often places where people are stressed. Just walking through the airport, reflecting on people and recognizing that every human being shares the same wish to be happy and to be free of suffering. And then in your mind, just wishing a person happiness, wishing them wellness, just sort of sending positive thoughts can completely change how you walk through an airport. And it doesn't take much. It's like a perceptual illusion. You just flip a switch in your mind. And all of a sudden, what may be a chaotic and stressful place becomes a celebration of human possibility.
Davidson and his team are developing a meditation app for smartphones where users can measure their meditation progress. He calls it a Fitbit for the mind. So he says this holiday season, carve a little time out for meditation each day. Then, during the stress and tumult of the holiday season, wish a little happiness to your fellow shoppers and travelers, and see if your own blood pressure lowers. You can learn more about Richard Davidson and his book, Altered Traits, by visiting our website at radiohealthjournal.net. Our writer-producer this week is Polly Hansen. Our production director is Sean Waldron. For Reed Pence, I'm Shel Lustig. Medical notes this week. This flu season is the second in a row where the federal government is recommending against use of the nasal spray version of the flu vaccine because of a drop in its effectiveness. But now scientists say in a study in the journal Vaccine that they found a mutation in the flu mist vaccine that might be exploited to boost its punch. Researchers have already tweaked the mutation experimentally and hope they can ramp it up to a commercial scale. Scientists all over the world are looking for an effective treatment of Alzheimer's disease, but a new study suggests that if they find such a treatment, the U.S. health system is ill-prepared to roll it out. The study finds that there are too few medical specialists to diagnose patients with the early signs of Alzheimer's and too few infusion centers to deliver treatments. Researchers estimate that as many as 2 million patients could be left waiting for therapy. Fecal transplants have proven extremely useful in combating potentially fatal C. difficile infections. However, many patients are put off by the ick factor of getting a fecal infusion via colonoscopy. Now a study in the Journal of the American Medical Association shows that pills containing frozen stool are just as effective at restoring healthy bacterial levels. Pills are also quicker and cheaper and leave patients much happier. And finally, people have long reported sightings of the Abominable Snowman, and the Yeti legend is important in the mythology of countries like Nepal and Tibet. Now a study in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B has analyzed DNA from purported snowman samples and determined it may be a myth after all. Of 8 samples of hair, bone, teeth, and skin that were analyzed, 7 were from bears, and 1 was from a dog. And that's Medical Notes this week.
Thank you for listening to Radio Health Journal, a production of MediaTrax Communications. If you enjoyed this week's show, please leave a review on iTunes or share it with a friend. You can find more Radio Health Journal stories about health, science, and technology on iTunes, Stitcher, and at radiohealthjournal.net.